to enable people that are involved in these businesses to actually ensure that they can have their assets or their assets have value at the end of the day. That's what I think. That's what excites me most about Bitcoin, and hopefully a Trump victory with very little regulation is that I do think the free market can figure this out, and Bitcoin is viral in nature, and it seems to be a trend that's picking up. Like, I would not be surprised if we wake up in 2026 and there's over 100 publicly traded companies with sizable Bitcoin treasuries. And at that point, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where if inflation isn't tamed and people are seeing the success of Michael Saylor and others that have followed his wake, and they say, hey, this looks like a better strategy than depending on the government to fix this inflation.
Yeah, and there's a tipping point, right? Companies, CEOs are conservative. They're financially conservative by nature. You don't get fired for doing what everybody else is doing. Okay. On the other hand, it's very risky to do what nobody else is doing. And so there's this tipping point where you go from, currently for a lot of companies, it's very risky to put Bitcoin on your balance sheet. But there is some level where it's actually risky to do the opposite. And then you get this mass lemming pile on. When people talk about $1 million Bitcoin, that's probably one of the usual suspects on that. When you get to the point where CEOs see it as risky to not hold Bitcoin, I mean, you'll get potentially trillions of dollars pouring over, because banks will also do that across the financial system. And I think what's been fascinating, this Trump coming over to Bitcoin. So he had, of course, been skeptical for a long time. I don't think Trump understood Bitcoin. I don't think he really had a strong opinion either way. He just likes the dollar. Okay. And, generally when he would criticize Bitcoin, like back in 2021, he would say things like, yeah, I'm not really sold on Bitcoin. I like the dollar. I want the dollar to be strong. And I think what happened, a couple of weeks ago when he was talking to libertarians and he came out full on for Bitcoin and, protecting self-custody, wanting Bitcoin to be made here in America, which I'll take it. There are economists who, ankle bite, but yeah, okay, I'll take that. I think what's happening there is that, Trump to me is an interesting politician where there's a lot of issues where I don't think he has a strong opinion either way. He doesn't really care. But what he does have is he loves his people. Okay. In his mind, he has a picture of the people who love him, and he has been astoundingly loyal to them. In his first term, anything that he imagined his people, okay, and his people might be like a farmer in Indiana or something, right? Whatever he imagined that person wants in life, he was for it. He is, I think, exceptionally loyal. That means that, for him to endorse Bitcoin like that, with most politicians, you would say, whatever, it's a politician trying to win an election. I think in his case, he is extraordinarily loyal. I think if he says that he's going to be pro-Bitcoin, I actually believe him. I don't think it's coming from conviction. I don't think he's read, Saifedean. But I think that he's incredibly loyal to his people, and that somebody in his orbit, maybe Don Jr., convinced him that Bitcoiners are his people.
Yeah, I think Steve Munchenbutts had a perverse influence on him during his first term.
He did.
And it's good to see that. Yeah, and it's good to see that he's been working closely with Vivek, who's pro-Bitcoin, and I do have hope. And we should mine all the Bitcoin here because that incites
I got no problem with that. Yeah. Right.
That incites the incentives. If Trump signals to the rest of the world, hey, we're going to mine all the Bitcoin here, they say, no, you're not. We're going to mine all the Bitcoin here, and then you naturally geographically distribute hash rate as people vie to mine all the Bitcoin within their borders. It's good for Bitcoin at the end of the day.
And people who worry about mining concentration. I mean, there is a worldwide trend to build useless green energy projects in the middle of nowhere. All of those are eventually going to be Bitcoin mining, because what else are you going to do with a dam that's 1,000 miles away from the nearest city? So look, there's going to be plenty of geographic distribution simply from bailing out all the green projects. So if we have policymakers in the US who are, hardcore pro Bitcoin mining, bring it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to win. It's dark times.
I think we're absolutely going to win. I think we're going to win on Bitcoin. I think we're going to win politically. I mean, this is part of the reason, people ask me like, because sometimes, I'll be kind of happy in the videos and people will be like, why are you happy, man? Everything's going, to hell. And no, we're absolutely going to win. If you look back through history, the hard times make weak men, and that whole, which is like a 2,000-year-old thing. Polybius, right? That's ancient wisdom at this point. It is true. The worse things get, the stronger we get. Okay, so I mean, in a way, I don't know. You don't like the suffering that comes when a country collapses. You do have starvation. You have all kinds of terrible things. But there's a silver lining that the faster things collapse, the faster we fix it. And, I have no doubt, if you look at the caliber of our elite right now, like the goofball who Biden just hired with these are not high quality. We're going to
find out he's stealing luggage in like 4 months.
Another luggage stealer. I mean, these are pathetic people. Like these we have, and the emperor has no clothes, literally, where like, it's like this Potemkin village of elite that, I mean, they're just absolute pathetic people. I have no doubt they're doing everything they can to hold it down. Censorship is pretty much all they got left. That's the only thing that's keeping them in power. Censorship, control over thought, fundamentally, right? Whether it's schooling, universities, media, that's all they got going for them is control over thought. They lose that, and holy cow, they're going to be out of here so fast. And even so, even with all the control over thought, right? You're talking about the Zoomers who aren't buying the global warming stuff. I mean, these guys, Zoomers they're like in the religious schools, man. They're in there every day with this stuff crammed down their throats. They probably get flunked out if they, question any of it. All the media they're getting, they're on TikTok. I think as well, we get censored all the time on TikTok for global warming stuff. And nonetheless, they're not buying it. So I am incredibly optimistic. They have to get lucky every single time, right? They have to suppress the truth every single time. If one time it bleeds out, that's going to be the sweater, the little thread in the sweater that pulls the whole thing apart. I am massively optimistic. It's not going to be fun between here and there. It does take a while, right? We got to win minds over one by one, but we are absolutely going to win.
Yeah. I think we may have a catalyst for the acceleration of acceleration in 2 nights with this debate, unless they could jack him up with enough amphetamines to make it a somewhat cogent debate. I think it's going to be massive mud on the face.